moeilijk om te gaan voorstellen. Ik heb de lift al gevonden.
Ah, de lift aan beneden. Is er een lift?
Ja, ik heb dat gezegd. Naar links.
Ja, maar ik heb met mijn liftjes, dat is heel belangrijk.
Als je hier buiten komt naar links en dan meteen terug naar links. Dan is mijn lift en dan kunnen we tot op eerst of op de nul gaan.
Geen excuus dan, maar
Makkelijk kan het wel, maar dat is wel.
die dingen geen excuus kunnen van de lucht nemen.
Wel, dat kan ik zelf. Ik heb nou een lift en op links komt.
Ik denk dat dat minder gewoon is, dat is wel een kindje op
Sans, dat past
Dat is praktisch.
Dit is goed verkouden.
Ja, als je begint binnenkomt, want je hebt zo...
Dat was een week of twee.
Het was verkeerd, het was goed.
We moesten dan tegen de avond
Voorslag tot 8 uur.
alles is investeren maar ik heb het altijd met wonen. En nu
Nee, dat moet je gewoon terug gaan.
dat is al tof.
Hello, can we start? Yay, me. Okay. Hi, I am Branislav. I'm a Drupal guy, and I'm a product engineer at Platform Stage, which is a continuous deployment cloud hosting company. And at Platform Stage, I'm usually maintaining the Drupal 7 website. I was also involved in building the Drupal 8 website, and sometimes I do front end. Before I became a programmer, I was a doctor guy. Now I'm a family guy. I lived in the beautiful city of Pančevo in Serbia, next to the capital. Now I live in the beautiful city of Rheinbach in Germany, also next to, well, ex-capital one. And I was supposed to have this session, recipes for modular content layouts, which was supposed to be a site building track, but I have no idea how I made it a mistake when I was submitting the session. So I submitted it as a front-end design session. So who here is like legit front-ender and designer? You're going to hate me, sorry. But yeah, who's doing site building? Drupal 8 site building? Okay, so good. You're not going to hate me that much. So for all those front-enders, this is the only CSS slide I have, and it's an example of really how to use CSS. And for the rest of you, I'm going to talk about the Drupal theme system a little bit, which is actually in core of all front-end and layout and user experience things. And yeah, of course it's layered. So there's this page, and within the page you have regions, and within regions you have blocks. And here you can notice that everything is a block more or less. So site branding, which was not a block in Drupal 7, now it is. And yeah, lots of blocks. One of the blocks is a view, and within that view there are some entities. They can be nodes or something else. And within those entities there are fields. So really lots of layers. And well, we learned that those layers are not enough for beautiful site building and content building work. So we decided to have something more. And so these layouts can be manipulated using various techniques and tools. And Drupal is well known that, well, it provides a huge amount of various tools. You are tempted to use everything, and then you just make a really slow and painful to manage website. So who does that? Yeah, I do this from time to time. And so I'm going to go through some of these building blocks and techniques and try to well, talk with you about which technique is the best for various use case or design scenario. And let's start with Drupal blocks. Now, Drupal blocks are, well, they exist in Drupal, I guess, since Drupal was invented in the city. And there are pieces of content or boxes of content that are being displayed in regions. And in Drupal 7, we didn't have full power of entities within Drupal blocks because Drupal blocks were like this special snowflake kind of thing. And we used beans as a contrib module to provide this entity like Drupal blocks. So who in Drupal 7 used beans here? Who hated them? Yeah, everybody. So basically beans are trying to be these new entities or pageless entities, and they kind of failed. And custom block tried to fix some of those problems in Drupal core. So, and really, custom blocks are nothing more than content entities. And because they are content entities, they are fieldable. So you can add a field to this entity, for example, CTA link, and it is just going to work. But even better, in block layout management page, you can actually use same block several times. That's really nice feature, especially if you want to have like 2 copies of site navigation, one for mobile display, another one for website or browser website computer display. So yeah, it works pretty nice. The thing is, even though block is an entity, a block placement or position of a block within your team or within your regions is a config entity. And that produces some really bad problems. So who is using blocks here to build their layouts? Okay, so basically the problem is content entities exist only in database. And configs can be exported and imported using this new beautiful CMI system. And that may be a problem, because every time you change layout, which is actually part of the configuration, you need to re-export and re-import configuration. Who knows what I'm talking about? Who has that problems? Yeah. So what happens? You have this mining content maintainer, and they're going to build some blocks, and they're going to distribute them all over the page, like control their visibility, maybe create some view, etc., etc. So yeah, they have this beautiful region and beautiful layout, and everything works just fine, and they can really make fantastic things with it. But then a developer comes, and developer does something that developers really love to do. Developer runs update to the website. And with Drupal, it's really simple. So Drupal 8, of course, you're going to run composer apps to update, you're going to run drudge config export, of course. Before that, you're going to update the database, flush caches, blah, blah, run export in order to make sure that new config is going to be in files. You're going to commit, push, pull, and then you're going to import config. And you're going to destroy all those beautiful things developed for content maintainer. So, what happened here? Yeah. Hi. And really, what a developer can do, they can import config from the website before they actually run update in their local, and we have beautiful command for that. And then they can update, config export, etc., etc. So it's useful, but developers don't like to do that. So when you think about config and content, if we do want to allow site builders or site maintainers, content maintainers, to actually control layouts, we probably want to do to make sure that those layouts, orders, and displays, etc., are stored as content entities. And if you want to make sure that layouts are stable and that control of layouts is in developers' hands, then we're going to force those layouts to be configured. And then whatever funny content maintainers do, you can just revert it with config imports. Which takes us to the first pattern of the day, which is sidebar pattern. So back in 2000s, we had this beautiful idea to put all those additional content into sidebars. Who developed a website with a sidebar this year? This year. Only one. Last year? A little bit more people. Okay, so sidebars are not that outdated. So you're going to use sidebars in, for example, administrative panels, or when you want to have these pull-out menus for mobile, you're probably going to put them in sidebars. So it's not that forgotten, I guess. And in this particular site, and this is an example of a site I worked on a couple of years ago. This is a news site. So you have promoted news, which is a view page, embedded in the front page, of course. So you have some two blocks, which are really interesting because they are custom blocks and they contain iframes. Now, this is called content embed, pattern or design pattern. And who does content embed here? It's useful sometimes. So if you want to make sure that content provider provides you both styling and content, you're going just to embed it in iframe and it's not a problem. Especially if you have some sort of control over the embedding site or the service is perfectly fine. So we have featured news, which is a view, and that new view needs to be only in front page, for example. And we have popular news, which can also be only in front page, or even like maybe it could be something else. It could be like categorized news based on category where you're watching or something like that. And basically, you can arrange all those views using nothing more than core Drupal, and it works. It didn't work in Drupal 7. In Drupal 7, you had to use context. Who used context? In Drupal 7? And in Drupal 8? Nobody. Okay. I haven't used it also in live project at least. But yeah, it exists. It's a contrib module, which uses contextual conditions to do something. And that something is a reaction, and currently Drupal 8 module supports only one reaction, which is actually to arrange blocks on the page. It is not necessary in Drupal 8 because everything it does, it can be done in core UI, but it kind of categorizes all those conditions, especially if you have like blocks you want to display multiple times and in various conditions or contexts. You want to keep that kind of categorized. And contexts are config entities, which is perfect for a news site, because if somebody, like a journalist, decides to hide a block, playing with it, and you were not really careful with permissions, yeah, you can just revert it easily. And it looks really nice, so UI is basically what you would expect from a Drupal module. You define a condition. Condition is, for example, display blocks or do whatever you want to do on article nodes. And reaction is just arrange blocks in various regions. So this is quite okay for sidebars and should be used. Next design pattern is much more modern. Vertical split design. Who uses this? Today, everybody, I guess. Yeah, those guys here are a little shy. Yeah, so it's the most popular design pattern today, I guess. And you can make it really, really flexible for your users. They can create these blocks or snippets of content, and they can just decide the order, and everything's going to be fine. Because you don't have those sidebars, UIs are not going to be so complicated. And yeah, so it works. And in order to work, it needs a URL. And you can decide what is going to provide that URL. So you can use nodes as parent entities, or you can use custom module where you're going to define a root, which is going to be URL, and then arrange blocks. But that's pretty complicated. Or you can use built-in solution, which is, well, not built-in, but a contributed solution, which is Page Manager. So who uses Page Manager here? Only one developer. Okay. So Page Manager was part of C tools in Drupal 7. So who used panels in Drupal 7? Much more people. Okay. So it was part of C tools. Now it's kind of its own dedicated thing, and it allows basically creating routes and arranging blocks within those routes. So it is going to be a nice UI, and where you can say, okay, I want this view to be first block. The view is going to be displaying sleek slider, and it's going to be displaying slide content types without any filters, so whatever is a slide content type is going to end up there, which is maybe useless, but who knows. And you can use custom blocks, so you can create CTA type of custom blocks using nothing but core custom blocks module, and yeah, you can embed them relatively easy. You can also embed navigation blocks, which is just a menu, for some views that are a little bit more complicated than display everything. So this particular view is going to have a contextual filter, and it's going to be a category of a course, for example. So now you have a contextual filter, and this is the config for the view. Contextual filter is going to accept this category and include. And it looks like this. You would embed a view, and here you have to provide context. But there is a problem. I have two context fields because of odd, and you don't see the actual context. You have to provide context first. You have to find in Page Manager taxonomy term, and that is the context, and this is default behavior of Page Manager. Who knows about this problem? Yeah, so basically, Page Manager by default doesn't work. And you need to patch it. You need to do all sorts of crazy patches. So first you need to fix broken Ajax in order to provide context in the first place. And then you need to make sure that this duplicate context mapping is not duplicated. And people are really bike shedding about those two subjects, like it is terribly, terribly complicated just to commit it and make those modules work. But yeah, the good thing is we have Drupal 8. Good thing is everybody's using Composer these days, right? Right? No? Okay, so basically you can in Composer just apply those patches, and they're going to be applied every time you update the module until they actually fix the thing, and then you're going to have a problem, but yeah. So all those patching and all those making sure that things work are actually making us all out of the comfort zone, but it is what it is. We have Drupal 8, it's new, it's crazy, and yeah, it doesn't work by default. So, what are we going to kind of conclude? Really, we can use page managers in order to embed views, embed all those blocks that require dynamic context, which is pretty interesting, and order of elements in page is config. So if somebody crazy enough just decides to change order, you can revert it in a single click. That is the biggest problem also, because if you have like content maintainers who want to make changes in these orders, you're going to commit every single change they make, which is annoying. And really, yeah, so there is a lot of patching. By default, Page Manager doesn't support layout. So who knows about layouts API in Drupal 8? Oh, two people. Two people, so layouts API is awesome. We're going to talk about it. And if you want to embed a node within a Page Manager, you cannot, because it works only with blocks. So you actually have to either use entity block module, which is going to provide a link, kind of entity reference from block to the node, or you're going to play with views or whatever. But it doesn't feel natural to work with nodes and Page Manager. So there is an update to Page Manager. Panels was in Drupal 7. Well, this Swiss Army knife of layouts. In Drupal 8, it doesn't do anything by its own. So it actually needs a module which is going to provide a UI for it. Who uses panels for Drupal 8 here? Okay, nobody. Come on. Yeah. Okay, so really, panels just provides a really nice way to embed blocks into regions, and then it supports also multiply the regions or regional layouts through this layout discovery module, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later. So basically, what panels fixes by default is it fixes this to duplicate context field in block config, and really doesn't do anything else in this default Page Manager panels setup. But we have layout discovery, or layouts API in Drupal core. While developing Drupal 8 core, we actually had it already as an idea, but it was removed before 8.0 was launched. Then it was added as an experimental module to 8.3, and it's going to be stable in 8.4. And it's really nothing more than an API to allow you to create layouts or special layout templates in order to enhance your layout experience. And in programming, it's nothing more than a collection of YAML, Twig, CSS, and JavaScript files. And it looks like this. So you have this theme.layout.yaml file where you're going to define a layout. You can define regions within, you can define template file. And that template file is nothing more than a Twig template file. And this is an example of Twig template. And once you provide nothing more than these two files and clear caches, your page manager is going to allow you to build multiple layouts. Now, you don't really need this for this vertical split design, but yeah, you have it, and it's in core, and it actually doesn't require any patching or anything. It just works, which is interesting. Which brings us to the next pattern, and this is an interesting pattern because it requires content maintainers to do all sorts of crazy layout changes and everything. So in this particular scenario, you want to use various elements on the page. You want to allow people to play with them, and yeah, it's going to work something like this. You have a landing page, which is a content type. And you have body field of the content type, for example. You may have contact form, which actually doesn't have anything to do with this particular page. It's just a contact form, which is also provided in Drupal core. And you may want to include some custom block, which is also nothing to do with the landing page. But then you want to be really crazy and you want to rearrange those elements for AdWords landing page. Or you want to rearrange them and add some other elements in another page. And really, you can do this using Page Manager and panels, but then you're in problem because first, it's all config, so, and second, terrible user experience, of course, and finally, it doesn't give you full flexibility. So we developed Penalizer. Now, we used Penalizer in Drupal 7. Did you love it?
No.
No? Yeah. It was kind of bad. And it was part of this Monopoly experience. So who used Monopoly here as distribution? It's a good idea, but it was kind of slow and terrible, difficult to maintain. So yeah, in Drupal 8 there is a penalizer, which allows you to penalize a view mode of an entity. Now, penalization means that it just integrates panels and all the APIs panels provide with entity displays, saying that it's not a big module, but it does fantastic things. It allows all those entity fields to become blocks, and then you can really manipulate those blocks within the entity. And what's the best thing possible is penalizer is a field within the entity. So every change of panel layouts can be revisioned, and yeah, it won't change config at all. And of course, in order to penalize a view mode, you are going to check this, penalize this view mode field, and you have to make sure to check this another option, which is allow each content item to have its display customized. Why? Because somebody decided to put this checkbox here and make sure that the penalizer doesn't work if it's not checked. Because Drupal. But results are fantastic. So result is you can have in place play with penalizers. So you can panels. You can change layout orders of fields. You can still change the order of fields. And this is only one layout. I can provide multiple layouts. And yeah, I can actually add blocks. I can add whatever I want here. And it usually likes. And of course, what's big advantage? Big advantage is, it looks okay. It's drag and drop. User content maintainers are going to love it. It makes sure that everything content maintainers do won't be broken when you update the site or whatever you want with it. Problem is it's still in active development, so bugs may happen, so patches may happen.
Does that work with paragraphs?
Yep.
In the paragraph you can...
I don't know it works with like individual paragraph items, but probably yes. But in individual paragraph, like changing elements in a paragraph, that's an interesting idea. I never tried it. I will, maybe even today.
Another question.
Yes?
Would the penalizer be the solution for content managers who want to have flexible layout, or is there another idea?
I'm sorry,
So say you're a webmaster, non-technical,
yeah.
and you want to have flexible layouts. So you want to have 3 types of column storage. Would you recommend to use this?
Yes. So basically, if you want to allow them, if the requirement is to make sure that they want flexible layouts for a single entity type. Yes, this is the only way to do it. I mean, yeah. Otherwise, you can do a lot of your own coding, kind of to limit the powers of content maintainers, if you want to. But yeah, I believe this is, if you want to give them as much of flexibility as you want, without allowing them to break the site, I would go with this. And yeah, somebody mentioned paragraphs. So this is another approach to do vertical split design. This time you want to actually allow content maintainers to change orders, layouts, and everything, but you still want to keep them controlled, not to do all of those crazy layout things. So you're going to, of course, use paragraphs, which is totally new way of doing this kind of micro elements and then ordering them in the page. And we had something really similar in Drupal 7, field collection. Who used field collection? Yeah, so it's really nice little module. There's a problem with it. It doesn't allow multiple various field types within a single field collection. And you can do that in paragraphs. And yeah, it's nice module with only one big problem, and that's, well, not really a problem, maybe it's a feature. Paragraphs are not reusable. So saying that if you have one element that you want to show in two different pages, you have to create it twice, because the element is actually connected in this parent-child relationship with the page. Which is a good, because it allows you to delete pages and all the, you won't leave all the orphaned paragraphs behind. So it's good. And of course, paragraphs are content entities, which is awesome. And they look like this. So basically, you can just define multiple paragraphs and then embed it in a page. Who used paragraphs? Why am I talking about paragraphs at all? Yeah. Most people did. So the design is like this. You have this content type, which is, for example, project, and field sections, which is actually paragraphs, entity reference to paragraphs. And then you have main section paragraph, which is, yeah, this. You have slideshow paragraph, which is really interesting because it's actually a paragraph of paragraphs. You would, within, have multiple children paragraphs. Some of them could be main section type of paragraphs. And you would display them all in a slider, for example, split sliders. This is another main section paragraph. It's displaying the same content as the previous one, even though the layout is not the same. You have a grid paragraph, which is also paragraph of paragraphs, because you have next to title and body, you have reference to other paragraphs, and you can have multiple paragraphs and it should just work. And finally, you have also one main section paragraph, which is a combination of also media and title and some body. And so the question is, how are we handling that? So really, slideshow paragraphs are only collections of paragraphs, I told that. And you would basically just add this slick slider to every single field item of the paragraph that you would run. Yeah, and I already talked about this. Okay, so, and yeah, main section paragraphs and variations within are much more interesting. So basically, it's nothing else than CSS change. So you will just have this paragraph main, which has a CSS column float left with 50%, and you will basically create two columns, every single one of them same width. And then if you want to enlarge this main media column, you're just going to make it a little bit wider and text a little bit smaller, and you would actually add extra class to the main paragraph, which is more than enough. And the same thing with this inverse, you would just do float right, and for the detailed case, you would probably add media, Excel, and float right in order to float it, and yeah. So who does this? Are you using a module?
Paragraphs module?
Well, a module to change classes, or are you using it?
We just got a custom field and then, or there's a module.
There is a module.
Yeah.
So I also did custom field. Before I found out there is a module for that. And it actually works pretty nice. So you basically define paragraph styles, and those paragraph styles would be then fed into a field. And the field is entity reference field to those paragraph styles, because paragraph styles are config entities, saying that you're not going to allow content maintainers to add extra paragraph styles, but you're going to allow them with entity references to actually change them.
Does it allow easy delete of classes? So say you remove a class, is it going to complain that all the entity references are going to be deleted?
That's an interesting question. I don't think so, but we can try
The
it.
problem we have with creating a custom field is the options you add to the list. If you delete an option, Drupal will come complain that you can't delete the option because the option is used in your database content.
That's an interesting question, because it's config. I guess it's going to reference the missing config.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that works. But yeah, Drupal is not going to complain because it won't be aware of that. You're going to change config. So yeah, you can take another approach, and this is something you probably took. You can use preprocessor of paragraph, and then just use text field, and that whatever is in that text field would be just fed into class attribute of the paragraph, which actually gives more power to developer and probably more power to actual content maintainer, and we would miss that problem in paragraphs because yeah. So the question is, how could we have lived without paragraphs? Oh, that didn't go well. Yeah, we somehow managed to survive. One of the options was rabbit hole. Who uses rabbit hole? It's the most beautiful, most fantastic ever module in Drupal 7 world. It doesn't do too much, but it does one thing well. It hides full pages of nodes, and that's it. So let's go back to the previous example. We would also have entity reference, but this time we would reference the nodes, not to, oh man, 10 minutes. We would reference the nodes, not to paragraphs, and then we would have multiple nodes, and those nodes would be hidden with rabbit hole. Now, we also have rabbit hole for Drupal 8, so we can actually use the same approach for Drupal 8, and the question is whether or not to use paragraphs or rabbit hole. Now, both are relatively well maintained, even though I guess more money is pulled into paragraphs. And yeah, so basically native entities versus node, that's the question, and I really don't know the answer. I guess it's all matter of personal preference. But yeah, the question is, how are we going to format a single section, a single paragraph or a single node? And for that, we can use display swift. Who uses display swift for Drupal 8? Yeah, it's good. It integrates well with layouts, and it allows custom field templates, etc., etc. So it's good. It's not as useful as in Drupal 7, I guess, but that's more evolution of Drupal itself. And yeah, we can play with penalizer to actually like format content, or we can play with bootstrap paragraphs, which actually allows us to have multiple bootstrap templates for paragraphs, it's nice module. Or we can actually team it all. So back to teamers, a few of you. Basically, there is this idea of bundling CSS, JavaScript, and template files together. So you would have in-team info file, libraries, team, CSS templates, and that's something we all have in teams. But what if we had this new directory called components, and within those components we could have section types. And within every single directory of section types, you'd have associated CSS, JavaScript, and templates. So we could template paragraph as a main section, or node as a main section, or block as a main section. Well, block not. Because it doesn't work. You don't have templates for blocks as that, so you would have to do some team suggestion hacking in team file, and then you would have something like that as well. So basically, then you would be able to move those directories from various projects, and they would contain both CSS and JavaScript and HTML. And in order to do that, you would just assign CSS and JavaScript to the library, and everything else will be auto-discovered. Now, you would end up with a million CSS files, but who cares? They're all going to be in CSS anyways. So the question is, do you want to bundle config too? And so when we engineer it, why don't we over-engineer it? So you would actually export configuration for your block or whatever, this vertical section into a module. You would use features module for Drupal 8, which is actually awesome, but I'm not going to talk about it. So the question is whether or not to use a certain tool or method is a question of whether or not it is working for you, and so it's all matter of binary. Whatever you decide, have fun and share knowledge. Thank you. If you have any questions or anything, do we have time for that? 5 minutes. We have 5 minutes for questions, and if that's not enough, we can talk in some questions? Rotten tomatoes?
It actually just allows for the commentator, it was a lot easier to work with, and all that stuff.
We are using it as well in our platform.sh website for some content. And it's actually pretty great. We haven't really played that much with it, but basically this would allow you to create these HTML snippets of sorts. You can then maintain them using KSS or something like that, together with CSS, like reusable front-end modules, and then you just import them easily. And you can also use this template option easily, which allows. So why not? My problem is people like to forget to close div tags in this place, and that may just when you open div, you have to close it, otherwise. Yes, but that's perfectly good solution. I can only find one problem with that, or I found one problem with that, and that's the only reason I don't really recommend it. If you want to change across all the entire website, if you want to change all the snippets, and you want to change their HTML, you're in trouble. Because you're not using fields. I encountered it only once. With a project or a corporate website that changed totally design 3 times and it remains same content, like in very 3 years. And you know, but as I said, that's all a matter of talking to actual client and understanding what they want. If they want to have like this always cutting-edge website, I wouldn't do that. More questions? Come to our sponsorship booth. We have fantastic demos there and some chocolate.
Basically,